9/11, and we have a little thing prepared for you guys today to kind of commemorate that. On a clear, sunny, late summer day in September 2001, Al-Qaeda terrorists aboard 3 hijacked passenger planes carried out coordinated suicide attacks against the World Trade Center in New York City and the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., killing everyone on board the planes and nearly 3,000 people on the ground. A 4th plane crashed into a Pennsylvania field, killing all on board, after passengers and crew attempted to wrestle control from the hijackers. Today, we would like to give you a chronology of the events of 9/11 as they unfolded.
7:59 a.m. American Airlines Flight 11, a Boeing 767 with 92 people aboard, takes off from Boston's Logan International Airport en route to Los Angeles.
8:14 a.m. United Airlines Flight 175, a Boeing 767 with 65 people aboard, takes off from Boston. It is also headed to Los Angeles.
8:19 a.m. Flight attendants aboard Flight 11 alert ground personnel that the plane has been hijacked. American Airlines notifies the FBI.
8:20 a.m. American Airlines Flight 77 takes off from the Dulles International Airport outside of Washington, D.C. The Boeing 757 is headed to Los Angeles with 64 people aboard.
8:24 a.m. Hijacker Mohammed Atta makes the first of 2 accidental transmissions from Flight 11 to ground control, apparently in an attempt to communicate with the plane's cabin.
8:41 a.m. United Airlines Flight 93, a Boeing 757 with 44 people aboard, takes off from Newark International Airport en route to San Francisco. It had been scheduled to depart at 8 a.m. around the time of the other hijacked flights.
8:46 a.m. Mohammed Atta and the other hijackers aboard American Airlines Flight 11 crashed the plane into floors 93 through 99 of the North Tower of the World Trade Center, killing everyone on board and hundreds inside the building.
8:47 a.m. Within seconds, NYPD and FDNY forces dispatch units to the World Trade Center, while Port Authority Police Department officers on site begin immediate evacuation of the North Tower.
8:50 a.m. White House Chief of Staff Andrew Card alerts President George W. Bush that a plane has hit the World Trade Center. The president is visiting an elementary school in Sarasota, Florida at the time.
9:02 a.m. After initially instructing tenants of the World Trade Center South Tower to remain in the building, Port Authority officials broadcast orders to evacuate both towers via the public address system. An estimated 10,000 to 14,000 people are already in the process of evacuating.
9:03 a.m. Hijackers crashed United Airlines Flight 175 to 75th through 85th floors of the WTC South Tower, killing everyone on board and hundreds inside the building.
9:08 a.m. The FAA bans all takeoffs of flights going to New York City or through the aerospace around the city.
9:21 a.m. The Port Authority closes all bridges and tunnels in the New York City area.
9:31 a.m. Speaking from Florida, President Bush calls the events in New York City an apparent terrorist attack on our country.
9:37 a.m. Hijackers aboard Flight 77 crashed a plane into the western facade of the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., killing 59 aboard the plane and 125 military and civilian personnel inside the building.
9:42 a.m. For the first time in history, the FAA grounds all flights over or bound the continental United States. Some 3,300 commercial flights and 1,200 private planes are guided to airports in Canada and the United States over the next 2.5 hours.
9:45 a.m. Amid escalating rumors of other attacks, the White House and the U.S. Capitol building are evacuated, along with numerous other high-profile buildings, landmarks, and public spaces.
9:59 a.m. The South Tower of the World Trade Center collapses 56 minutes after being struck by Flight 175.
10:07 a.m. After passengers and crew members aboard the hijacked Flight 93 contact friends and family and learn about the attacks in New York and Washington, they mount an attempt to retake the plane. Due to the struggle, the plane crashes into a field in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, killing all 40 passengers and crew aboard.
10:28 a.m. The World Trade Center's North Tower collapses 102 minutes after being struck by Flight 11.
11 a.m. Mayor Rudolph Giuliani calls for the evacuation of Lower Manhattan, south of Canal Street, including more than 1 million residents, workers, and tourists. As efforts continue throughout the afternoon to search for survivors at the WTC site.
1 p.m. From a U.S. Air Force base in Louisiana, President Bush announces that U.S. military forces are on high alert worldwide.
2:51 p.m., the U.S. Navy dispatches missile destroyers to New York and Washington, D.C.
5:20 p.m. The 47-story World Trade Center collapses after burning for hours. The building had been evacuated in the morning, and there were no casualties, though the collapse forces rescued workers to flee for their lives.
6:58 p.m. President Bush returns to the White House after stops at military bases in Louisiana and Nebraska.
8:30 p.m., President Bush addresses the nation, calling the attacks evil, despicable acts of terror, and declaring that America, its friends and allies would stand together to win the war against terrorism.
This concludes today's assembly. We ask that you just never forget 9/11. Thank you.